Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and with me this evening is a phenomenal woman who I had the pleasure of actually knowing for more than 20 years now. We got to go way back, and she is a mom, she is a mother, she's a woman of God, and she's just a phenomenal person to just to be around and to know. Just a big heart, one of the nicest people you could ever want to meet, and she's taking some time out of her busy schedule to hang out with us today and share a little bit about her journey with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others in the process. So it is my privilege and honor to do this at this time. So without any further delay, let me introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Miss LaShawna Coffy. LaShawna, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I too, my mind is blown just thinking about just how long we've known each other. Both you, your beautiful wife, Icy, and Gabby. And then, trust me, when I see the pictures of Gabby, I'm like, I remember her this big.
I
So
know.
we certainly do go back, and I'm just thankful that God has saw fit to allow our connection, our friendship. I'm very happy to say our friendship just stand the test of time, and just to even just know that He saw fit to send someone like you all into my life. I feel proud. I feel blessed to be connected to you. So thank you for this invitation and this opportunity to share. I've been seeing the various flyers and subject matter going around on Facebook. And I mean, you were doing a great work. I'm telling you, I applaud you just for being faithful, being available. I mean, it's truly been a blessing just seeing how God is using you. And I just know greater is still to come. So I applaud you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for that support and encouraging words. And as you stated, I mean, the time has just definitely gone by very fast. And you've had an opportunity to not only know me, but of course, my immediate family, including my mom, of course. And it's just a full circle thing that, how long we've known each other. And like you said, we became good friends, and we've had very powerful and meaningful conversations over the years with one another. And, the only thing is missing is we haven't had a chance to physically be face to face in a little while, but I'm glad, nevertheless, that we've been able to stay in touch with each other and still have that connection with one another, despite the fact of the distance being between us physically. So, again, the friendship stands the test of time, and I'm glad to have you, and I'm excited about the journey and the story that you're going to share with us this evening, because I'm confident that somebody's going to be blessed as a result for this time together. So, with that said. Um, Before we jump into our segments, I do want to, of course, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our listening audience. Just kind of a general introduction. This is who I am. This is where I'm from. This is what I do. Just kind of give them a taste of who is LaShawna Coffy.
Sure. Well, let's see. I'm a mother of three adult children, and now I have three grandchildren. My oldest grandson is 11. Well, my only grandson, he's 11. And then the two girls they're about, one's about to be 8, and the other one just turned 4. So, nonetheless, they pull at the strings of my heart at all times. So, I'm needless to say, running in different directions, trying to respond to them and just be present for them. As you know, I had moved to New Orleans in 2019. I lived there for about 4 years and just recently came on back to Indianapolis to really be closer not only to them, but my family in general. I really missed my grandkids, and I didn't know that it would affect me emotionally. Because I'll be honest with you, moving out there, we had a plan. We were hoping that that would be the spot that they would come to, but nonetheless, missed everyone terribly and said, I'm just going to make my way back home. Now, I'll be honest in saying that Indianapolis wasn't quite my the first place for me to return to. I really just wanted to kind of close the gap, close the distance. But nonetheless, the Lord saw fit to bring me back home where I was received, welcomed back home so openly. And so I'm happy to be back around my family. I'm not completely opposed to relocating, but we'll just see what comes in time. Nonetheless, I'm still serving in ministry. I've been blessed to not only be ordained, but work in the Lord's vineyard now for it's been about 15 years. Off and on in leadership roles. I'm happy and proud to be a part of Scott United Methodist Church. which that is where when I first gave my life to Christ, I joined and then just kind of ventured out to the Baptist church, things like that. But you talked about full circle moments. And so this certainly feels like one. Being back home is where my family is at. The bulk of my family members go, rather. So, yeah, I love our membership. I love our pastor, Pastor Jeffrey D. Postel. He actually just welcomed his second child into the world just yesterday. So,
Wow.
everyone's trying to catch up on some rest. It's a busy season in general. But, as I tell the membership all the time, what an awesome time to be part of the household of faith and just kind of see the direction the Lord has taken us in. I mean, he's a phenomenal man of God. He's passionate about moving the ministry forward. So just to be yoked up with someone who wants to just continue to see the ministry not only evolve but excel, I'm excited. I feel so very grateful that I get to be a part of that. I'm obviously very active in the home front. I'm with my mom. I love my mom. She's always been one of my number one supporters. And so I can see a lot of those traits kind of filtering down through me as I support my children. I mentioned they're all adults. So just trying to be present for everybody, and obviously self care is very important to me. So I try and make sure I'm good, but ultimately, it's just a great time to be alive and just to, despite of what's happening in the world, I think we still have so much to look forward to, day to day. So I'm great. I'm grateful.
That is awesome. That is awesome, and what a wonderful intro, and the works that you're doing, and as exciting as that is, I'm also not surprised. You've always been, for as long as I've known you, you've always been a woman of faith. We've partaken in Bible studies together. We've prayed together. We've had these kind of conversations. So to see you emerging, being ordained in leadership and ministry, and pouring back into the lives of others, as God has gifted you to do. I mean, it's not only a great work, but again, you're just walking in your purpose. You're walking in the path that God intended for you to do, and you're just letting your light shine accordingly. And what more could you ask? And you're truly being a blessing to not only to your family, but to many around you. So that's just really great to hear your, like you said, the evolving. And it's just, I'm still in shock, obviously, as you are, when you talk about, kids being grown and you being a grandmother now. I mean, like, what? It just blows me away. But you're doing your thing, and you're wearing it well. And I'm just so happy and excited for you. So thank you for sharing that introduction. Again, that gives everybody a good backdrop as to who we're up with tonight. I'm telling you, you're going to be in for a treat, and we're just getting started. So, with that said, I'm a firm believer that when it comes to our journeys in life, the travel that we go on through the course of our lives, you really can't fully capture the essence of one story without starting from the beginning, and that's exactly where we're going to go in this conversation with you. I want to kind of take you back. Of course, you may mention obviously that you're originally from Indianapolis, of course, and that's where we met. Was in Indianapolis when I stayed there. I lived there, of course, for 17 years before relocating. And so, if you would kind of think back and tell us, what was it like for you growing up? Fond memories that you have about your upbringing, as well as if there's any challenges that you had to deal with along the way that you care to share. Provide that information as well. Just kind of give us a feel for what those beginning moments were for you as you were coming up.
Well, I did. I spent some time just kind of thinking about that. Um, you know, how or which direction I wanted to go in. I'll just start with my grandmother. I was fortunate to have known my grandmother up to about 23 before she had passed away. And so just having her love and her influence in my life, I think helped shape the way I saw the world and perhaps even who I was going to eventually become. My grandmother she was a little bit of an introvert, but yet she could get at you. So I can remember various conversations with her and experiencing some of her directness. So I knew at a minimum, I know that I have to be honest and real with who I am. And so just thinking back over my childhood, I have very fond memories of being around my grandmother, my aunts. Of course, I have four aunts that are still alive today, still very present in my life today. But just being around them, being groomed by them, being, you know, um, influenced by them, I felt very blessed to have had strong women in my life. That does not necessarily mean that I was responsible with everyone's feelings. And, because we were busy, I was very busy as a young person, especially as I became a teenager. But I'm so grateful that God gave me the opportunity to make amends, where eventually He began to show me how I may have hurt my family, sometimes, brought shame or offended them. He let me or gave me opportunities to make it right. So nonetheless, our relationships are very much they're stronger today. But overall, I could remember, just as a young person, how I could not wait to be grown. And I can remember at 9 or 10, exemplifying certain behaviors that could have let you think I was older than what I was. And so I can remember that, that tended to get me in trouble, both in and out of school, So there were times that I've had to suffer consequences as a result of my mistakes. But overall, I mean, I'm so thankful that um, God allowed me to overcome and just eventually um, learn from my past and try to repeat mistakes as I entered into adulthood, but especially as I entered into motherhood. So, yeah, I had a good childhood, I would like to say. It's obviously multifaceted. I don't know that we could talk about it all, but overall, I don't think I would do anything differently. I yeah, I was very fortunate to, like I said, to have been surrounded by family in general. I was not um, blessed with my father's presence. In fact, I did not meet my father for the first time until I was probably about the age of 19. And so, even with that, I had to grapple with forgiveness and letting go of resentment and what could have been, because he wasn't there. And so that I think that posed it posed a big challenge for me, because I think at times I struggled with my true identity. And so when I talked about the shame I brought to my family, I think some of that was more so rebellion.
Hmm.
And but overall, I believe my childhood was good, and I wouldn't change anything about it.
That's great. That's great. I'm always, glad to hear stories of childhood memories when we talk about, that closeness of family. Because you just don't see a lot of that like we used to, back in the day. And we talk about the grandmother's presence in our lives. And, I was also very close to my grandmother, and how that shapes and molds you and transitions you into being the person that you are. So it again, it's clear, it's clearly evident in you, in your character and your integrity and your growth. That obviously there are some people that were in the backdrop along the way that were influencing you. And while you might have had some moments coming up where you didn't always maybe do the right things or make the right decisions, that didn't necessarily define, the ending to your story. And that's so important for us to embrace. I mean, we all, fall short. We all have our hiccups and challenges and things that we say or do or think that, ooh, I wish I would have handled that a little differently. It doesn't make us a horrible person. It doesn't make us, doomed for, a failed life. It's an opportunity, an opportunity in this case that you've taken to grow and to develop, to learn from those things, to become the person that you are. And considering the fact that you're now in ministry and in the capacity that you're in, you have to go through those things in order to be able to resonate and connect with people who are now going through those same things. Because who better to speak to than somebody who knows what I've been through, who's kind of gone through
Yeah.
some of the stuff that I'm going through, versus the person who's trying to give this appearance or this aura as if they're the epitome of perfection and they've never done anything wrong. They've never had a
Mhm.
misstep and never had a mistake. No, I want to talk to somebody who's been where I'm at so they can relate to me and help me process and figure this
Mhm.
thing
Agree.
out. We hear the cliche statements all the time from different people. saying, you don't look like what you've been through. I mean, a person can easily look at you and not assume that you've had any kind of rough patches or anything like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't. You've just persevered through it all and allowed God to shape and mold you and transition you accordingly. So that way, you know, um, you are a positive reflection of people that says to them, you can overcome whatever challenges or obstacles that you're going through. Look at me. Look at Joe. Look at the next person. I mean, we've all had our challenges and our battles. So, it's really good to hear that. And I appreciate you being transparent about the meeting of your dad. I always, wonder about that, whenever I hear that kind of statement made about, ladies that I know who haven't had a chance to either know their dads at all or perhaps, didn't meet them until later in life or just were estranged altogether. And you kind of touched on that a little bit where you talked about how it impacted you. You felt like it to a certain degree, it caused a sense of rebellion. You had to go through the process of forgiveness, and to, basically asking God to remove any resentment or hard feelings from you. And again, that is a strong sign of growth, to be able to do that. Because I can't personally, I can't imagine being a father of a daughter. I can't imagine not having that connection. So I'm always, not only am I thankful that I do have the connection and the close bond that I have with my own daughter, but anytime I hear a daughter of a father who that father wasn't around, I'm always wondering, what kind of impact did that have on you, particularly when it comes to, relationships with men. It's like if that, because that dad is supposed to be the first example of what I model from to determine what man I'm going to ultimately, connect with, relationally speaking. And so, and you could speak to that. I mean, I don't know how much of that had an impact on, just your ability to, engage in relationships based upon the absence of dad in the home. Did that have a specific impact in that area as well, or how did that play out for you in regards to that?
Yeah, very much so because, when I talked about it messing with my identity, it was like I sought validation. I needed validation. I could easily say, I thought that's what I would have. No, I needed validation. I needed to feel loved, desired, wanted. That's with any woman. Everyone wants that natural connection or chemistry, to come to the forefront, if someone's genuinely interested in you. So there were times in my life I felt like I was chasing, because I needed that attention. I needed to be affirmed. And I'm not talking necessarily intimately, I mean, I just needed that. I needed that male presence, in my life. And so at times I felt like I was either chasing, which then made me think, well, am I desperate? Well, then made me think, well, no, that's not necessarily. You want what every woman wants, but you want it from the right person. So that's when I really knew I had to hunker down and just decide to wait. And obviously being a single woman, it has its rewards, but at the same time, you have those moments, when you want to be in the presence of a male or your significant other and feel again that you are both on the same page or connected. But, I think at times you really have to ask yourself, is it really worth my peace of mind?
Hmm.
I know what I think I want, but is it right? So there's always that pro and con, that conversation you have to have with yourself. What's most important here? Having someone around just for the sake of having someone around, or having someone around because you're both going or moving in the right direction. So I do think that the absence of my father, and I'm talking more so, 20s, 30s, it really messed with me, because I was still trying to overcome that sense of rejection. I knew I had been rejected by my father because my main question, and I'd always told myself if I had the opportunity to ask him, my main question would be, how could you have a daughter in this world and not be concerned or not look for me? I think there was only one time, two times maybe I recall my mother bringing it to my attention that he either called or asked about me. But I could never really still understand, like, if you have an offspring or a child that's connected to you, how could you live in the world and not make sure that your presence, or at least tend to care. So once I could get past that part of it, I think that's when I pretty much just said, you know what, I'm not going to hold it against him because there's no undoing what's been done. All we could do was move forward. So when I was getting married and I sent the invitation, to the last known address for him, and obviously I didn't get an RSVP and I didn't see him, I pretty much just kind of drew a line in the sand, just saying, no longer will I carry this burden, of trying to understand why something did or didn't happen. I'm going to move forward, and that means letting that go. So, I mean, there are times even when I'm talking to people about, an absent father, have experience in that, or even just fathers not being present in their child's lives, I really wish that they could understand that it's so much more. The child could be better, so much more better off if you're
Mm-hmm.
there. If you could just let go of the past or whatever's happening between you and the child's mother, or whatever the situation may be, if you could just let go of that and really just think further ahead and see the difference that you're making, in this child's life. I really wish men were more attentive where that's concerned, because I think it's easier to think, there's no fixing this. How can I fix it? But there's a way. It's called effort. Just try.
Mm-hmm.
Just try. So I just wish that if any man could take anything away from a conversation such as this, it would just be like every look, even little progress is still progress. At least
Mm-hmm.
try. Our children they crave someone who cares about them, who love them, who are willing to pour back in them. And fathers, I believe, are truly that missing link. So I'm not really sure where I was going with all of this, other than a father's presence matters, and it has a much greater effect than what people realize. And I'm just thankful to be one of those that God healed. Like I said, and I tell people this all the time, if my father walked through the door today, I don't even know that I would know him. But if he were to introduce himself, I probably would just throw my arms around him and tell him, I harbor no resentment against you. If that was what you chose, that's fine. My life is
Mm-hmm.
still what it is today. So it's kind of like your loss, but I'm not going to hold that against you. It's too late in the game at this point. I just want to move forward. How do we move forward?
Right. Right. I love that. I love that perspective that you have. And again, I appreciate your transparency in the response to that. I know that can oftentimes be a difficult thing to talk about, but just hearing you speak about, again, that forgiveness, that willingness to not, harbor, ill feelings or anything like that, or feel the need to want to be vindictive or revengeful or anything of that like that, because at the end of the day, that doesn't hurt the other person. It hurts you. It doesn't allow you
Mhm.
to, like you said, to move forward. It doesn't allow you to breathe, if you will, and have that peace of mind that you spoke about. And and if by chance any fathers have an opportunity to hear this episode or view the episode, I pray that they take heed to the message that you share, because that fatherly presence matters so much. And like you said, for the affirmation, for the leadership, for the encouraging words, just little things like the hugs, or the kiss on the cheek, or or the I love yous, just those little things right there just matter so much. And then of course the other takeaway that I want to point out, that you made mention about being single. You don't look at single as being a curse or a horrible thing. You're okay with single. You desire companionship, but you desire also to not pursue it just for the sake of saying that I have somebody. So you're understanding your value. And that again is also an important thing for any ladies that are listening to this, that happen to be single and perhaps are in single mom situations or in divorce situations or what have you. Don't be so anxious to be with somebody for the sake of having someone, that you lower or diminish your value, you diminish your shine, because it's just not for the peace of mind, for the peaceful rest at night, all of those things. It's just not worth going out there like that just to say you have somebody, or even staying in a toxic relationship just for the sake of saying that you have somebody, when you really need to break free from that. So That's very, very good
You really
information
took the
that you
words
shared.
out of my mouth, but just saying, mentioning toxic relationships, because I think that, we think by being or remaining with someone, we're somehow making our family complete when it's doing more harm than good. And I
Hmm.
just want to talk about, again, being a single mother, that anymore in this day and age, we have to be mindful of who we are exposing our children to. Um, and I mean, there's so many people that have these backgrounds and these skeletons that we don't always know about, and they may be putting on, you know, a facade and appearing to have it all together, but we just got to make sure we're doing our due diligence in in who we're bringing around our children. I mean, whether we're always going to be there or whether it's just a one-time thing or whatever, always be around rather when they're around. We just have to be mindful that we're not exposing our children to the wrong people or people who have ill motives for being
Totally
around us.
agree. Totally agree. Totally agree. Very well said. Very well said. So, as you're moving along through your journey in life, of course, you've given us a very thorough background of your, your upbringing and your transition, of course, into adulthood, and we start to get more experiences in life, things that we're exposed to, things that we go through, and you live long enough. At some point, you're going to, from time to time, come across situations and circumstances that these moments of adversity, if you will, that hit a little different. We may be really good at navigating our way through challenging and difficult times, but like I said, every now and then something comes across our path that, for those rare moments in time, we're like, oh my God, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to get through this? Even if you are a believer and one of strong faith and knowing that God works things out, even us in those moments in time can sometimes still feel that vulnerability, that fear, that pressure, like, Lord, I don't know why this has come my way. I don't know what the purpose of all of this is. I don't have an answer for it. This is not something I can write a check for to make it go away. This is not something I can make a phone call to make it go away. My status, none of those things matter. I'm stuck and I don't know how to get out of this. If you would, share with us a time that you may that you can think of that you found yourself in that type of situation where you didn't see a way out. You weren't sure how you were going to do it. Obviously, you're here, thankfully, and so that's a good sign that you made your way through it. You survived it, whatever that was. But if you would, what kind of reflect on a moment in time where you went through a situation like I'm describing, kind of walk us through what that journey was for you and what was ultimately that turning point where you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, to be able to start to come up out of that and break free from that challenging moment in time.
Well, there are two examples that come to mind, but I'll stick to the one that's closest to my heart, and that's with my middle child, my daughter. Um, I'll have to be honest with you. I'm surprised that we're not as close as I hope that we would one day be. And it started relatively young for her, at a therapist and things. I was taking her to therapy and things like that just to try and get a better understanding of how her mind was working. And so at the time, she was diagnosed with what's called a personality disorder, or actually, it's, I think it was called manic depression at the time. And so now they kind of look at it a little bit differently now, maybe even referring to it as being bipolar. And and so with her, I just really wish that our connection could be stronger so that I could continue to try and affirm her and build her up. But it just feels like as time is going on, we're becoming more separated. The relationship is strained. Communications are strained. Our communication is not the best anymore. Right now, I feel like my granddaughter is kind of in the middle, and just kind of both the joy and yet the person who's keeping us connected. So that's posed a bit of a challenge for me because I've always kind of prided myself as being a good mom, a present mom, and so much so that I have asked my son if I die before you, tell the story, tell them that I was a good mother, that I loved y'all, that I sacrificed. I was there for you as much as I could, make sure the world knows, I tried to be the best version of myself for you all. And so even though it has really troubled me that we don't get along, I would hope that if she needs me, she knows that she can still call me, that I will be there for her. I will try and, show up. Um, when she needs me. But I mean, that definitely has hands down been one of the most challenging things in my life. Some people probably would have resorted to thinking about illnesses and like that as being a challenge. But I mean, it's just like the closest with my daughter. I wish that it could be better than what it is. So I pray for her. I pray for our relationship. I try and be, strong and obviously I'm going to continue to support her where my granddaughter is concerned because we're all in this together where she's concerned. But it's definitely challenged me in ways that I wasn't expecting to be challenged.
Totally understand. And again, appreciate your transparency and sharing that. One quick question I do have is that strain that exists, is it just between you and her, or is that strain also present between her and the other siblings?
Yeah, everyone's affected by it. What's I think what we see is very different than what she sees.
Hmm.
And obviously it's trying to get her to see, call it what it is, try and get her to a point to call it what it is. And so that's been the challenging part. But no, that strain is with the majority of the family.
Got you. Got you. But it appears from what you've shared in terms of just the way your family unit is set up, not only yourself, but I'm concluding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that your other children are also still trying to connect, still trying to be as supportive as best as they can, despite the challenges that are present, whether we account it towards specifically towards the illness, or whether we say that it's the illness and other things. You all are still, as a
Yeah,
family unit, still trying to say, in spite of what all's going on, in spite of the challenges that are before us, we still love you because you belong to us. You are a part of us,
yeah,
and we're not going to, disown or turn our backs against you, or sidestep you, if you will, just because of the circumstances. And we continue to pray and hope that God will, if it be His will, work through that situation to be able to navigate it to where maybe someday things will be more cohesive in terms of communications and just overall camaraderie. So, I mean, that's what I'm hearing from you, I guess, and from what you shared, and that, and to your credit, I mean, that's a beautiful thing that you're doing, because quite frankly, I think it's fair to say that there would be other parents that would be in a similar situation, and they would just be, of the mindset, well, if that's how it's going to be, then whatever. And they would just totally distance themselves from, not only from that child, but from the grandchild. And then now nobody wins. No, it's just one of those things where everybody is harmed unnecessarily, that everybody's denied of that opportunity. And again, as while I know that you would love for that bond to be much closer and everything, I truly do believe, as with all of our storms in life, none of them are by accident. That there is a purpose, for such a thing to be taking place, that is a direct connection, to again, to your walk, to your ministry, to the works that God has for you to do, for you to have to go through those, family strains, if you will, because I'm sure probably in the course of your leadership and ministry, you've probably encountered people who've had family strains, family challenges, and you've had to intercede, whether it be in prayer and in counseling or what have you, just to let them know, one, not to give up, and but then secondly to stay encouraged in spite of the circumstances that are involved. So again, we never know why these things take place, and sometimes we find out soon. Sometimes it takes a while before the pieces all begin to come together and it makes sense. But by no means do I believe that this was all by accident. And I truly do believe, with the perspective that you're taking, and the measures that you're taking, that what your prayer has always been will at some point, surface, that reconnecting will take place. Just like it's happened to you in other aspects of your life where you said, I had to go through some stuff. God had to bring me full circle, and then I was healed. I was restored. It's just another opportunity for the same thing to happen, just different situation, but same process. And we all do that. We all you had that relationship with God long enough, you're going to go through
Yeah.
those series of things. It starts out rough, and you keep sticking in, you keep hanging in there, you keep leaning on Him, trusting in Him to work it out, and eventually it works out. And then you look back on it and go, wow, I just remember how I was in the midst of it. But now look at me
Yes.
today and how much, growth there is, how much better I feel about it. I didn't understand it, but now it makes sense. So I have no doubt that the same will go down in this particular situation. And of course, I'll keep you in prayer accordingly for that, because every mother wants, or any parent wants to have a close bond and relationship with their children. So as well as siblings alike, they you don't want that to be present. But again, God makes no mistakes. So we're just
Yes.
trusting in that process. So thank you again for your transparency and sharing that. So with that said, just kind
We
of a
appreciate you bringing that up and just the
Mhm.
spin that you put on it. Obviously, we started out just talking about how it's challenged me, but just even earlier today, I was sharing with someone, just how important it is for us to start normalizing or make our mental well being a normal conversation, not trying to make anyone feel one way or another, or just trying to convince them that it is a thing, but just make discussing it and making sure we're constantly putting resources in each other's hands, making it making this information available so that you don't feel isolated or that you are fighting, an uphill battle. There's plenty of help out there, but I definitely think we need to just talk more openly. I mean, because I think we all, to a certain degree, depending on who we are or the situation that we find her in, we all could be just two steps away, from going over the edge or just feeling like it's the straw that broke the camel's back,
Mhm.
and it could be something so small to something else, but yet it's something that you're struggling through. So again, just talking about mental wellness, mental well-being, I think it has to just become part of a regular conversation. Life is hard and people are going through tough times. But I think when they know that they're supported and loved through a thing, there's a greater chance they could see themselves coming out than staying where they are.
Yeah, that relational aspect is so important, not only in this case, in the family scenario, but of course, first and foremost, relationship with God, just leaning on Him and allowing Him to be that peace, that joy, and that comfort for you as you're going through. Because if you were trying to do this all on your own strength, all on your own energy, you'd be outside of your mind right now. You'd be a wreck, and who wouldn't be? And it would be totally understandable. But while God does equip us to be able to handle some things, He has to allow a certain level of things that go on in our lives that can't be just all on us to be able to handle. That's the whole purpose of us being dependent upon Him, as He wants us to, so that He can show you that grace. He can show you that mercy. He can show you that unconditional love. He can show you that no problem is too big for Him to
Yes.
work through. And so it's we would like it in a microwave different type of way, the way we want it, but that's just not how it is. And we just have to trust that process, and we have to trust, most importantly, trust Him. And I think it's because you do, and that's your the normalizing part of your life in terms of your relationship with God. It allows you to be able to keep your mind in the right space and be able to deal with it even when times get a little rough, even when challenges cross your way. You're able to process that thing and not just freak out in the moment, if you will. So that's beautiful. And again, I'm glad you're sharing this, and our conversation is capturing these things, because these are some important gems that not only ourselves, but our listening audience, we need to hear this. We need to know this. It's the pathway for us to be able to get through our adversity moments, our overcoming those overwhelming times in our lives. That's how we do it. This is all a part of that process. So again, with that said, and we've kind of tapped into this, but I want to get into that healing, a little bit more into that healing conversation. So I'm curious to know from you, when you do find yourself facing challenges. I mean, we've talked about some pretty heavy stuff, but we know that all challenges and moments of adversity are not always going to be major as some of the things that we've discussed. Sometimes it's just regular everyday stuff that is an annoyance, it's a problem, it's an issue that we just got to deal with. Everything was going
Yeah.
fine today, and then we got home and there's a problem that I got to fix, that I got to work through. Please, if you would, share with us when you find yourself facing challenging and difficult times, again, big or small, doesn't matter. What process, what routine, what regiment do you like to follow that just kind of helps you, again, stay grounded, stay focused in your head, but also be able to work through, whatever it is that you're up against? What tends to work best for you?
Yeah. It's definitely my relationship with God. I mean, hands down. I think that is, I mean, that's that's the foundation and the pinnacle. I'm just kind of floating somewhere in between, this way rather. But ultimately, it just starts with God. When I just begin to feel overwhelmed or feel like I'm pretty much just kind of hanging on by a thread, I just try and get in a position of just being prayerful, um, being in the Word, reading more inspirational stuff that will stick. I mean, not only do I read the Word, I'm usually just trying to just calm my mind more so in a get into a place of meditation, if you will. I'm just thinking on the scriptures. I'm trying to really process how God would want me to see a situation. And sometimes that can be a challenge because what if He's not speaking in that season, to that situation? It's just something we got to go through. I just kind of remind myself that He's faithful, that He is not only the hope of the world, but He's my hope. He's my
Mm-hmm.
friend. He's my comforter. He'll be my strength, my burden bearer. He'll hold me up when I literally feel like I'm falling. I just, just try and activate my faith, according to the power that is in me, believing that He would not have brought me this far to leave me alone. I'm not facing a situation that seems unchangeable to Him. He knew the ending before I even found myself there. So yeah, it's those times when I really just gotta hold on or even just allow my faith to be tested, and ask myself, do I really believe the God that I say I believe in? And if so, I have to know that, the ending is in sight. It might not be today,
Mm-hmm.
but there, the ending is in sight. And, I just kind of hold on to that hope that, obviously there will be many people who would have gone through it before me. There may be people who's gonna go through whatever after me, but am I able to, stand, the test? Am I able to go on through the other side? And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I fall terribly. Sometimes, I'm just not the best version of myself. And I also know how to recognize, when I'm not showing up. And then that's when I have to go back and ask myself, who are you really? I'm a child of the King. I'm a daughter of the Most High God. I'm an overcomer. I'm a survivor. I'm everything He said I would be. So it's time to stand up. So that's the great thing about the grace of God, and this is something that, now that I think about it, I've probably said to the congregation on more than one occasion, God loves us too much to leave us the way He found us. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we got to go through, and even in our suffering, with that being said, even in our suffering, He's always at work. He's always, either peeling off layers or burning off stuff that shouldn't be, or actually keeps us from being able to shine, keeps us from being able to show up, better than what we were. So there's never a time that God is not thinking, if His ultimate goal is to conform us to the image of His Son, there's nothing that we're going through that's not going to work towards that goal, towards
Mm-hmm.
that plan. So, I mean, no, it doesn't feel good. No one likes to, you know, feel pressed, to
Right.
down to the ground, or, feel like, they're not going to come out of a situation. But I kind of like that cliche of the illustration of the tea bag. You never know what it's made of until it's put in hot water.
Mm.
So I mean, we're flavorful, we're savory, we're all that.
Right. Right.
Gotta go through the process.
Absolutely. And I love that. The tea bag example is so true. And just what you spoke to about, Because part of my prayer every day, I talk, when I'm talking to God, I ask him, to, when he's calling me to do a thing, that next mission, that next project, that next assignment, that not only do I operate in obedience, but that I understand that, he's not going to lead me down a path that is set up to fail. The victory has already been predetermined. All I have to do is step in that thing and go with it. And even though there might be some barriers along the way, that's okay, because he's not going to let me have to go through it by myself. He's going to be there. He's going to work that thing out. So it's okay for me to go through some stuff along the way. And I don't need for him to explain everything to me blow by blow, step by step up front, because he already knows how I am. He already knows how many of us are, that if he told us what we were going to have to go through to get to that blessing, we'd be like, oh, no, I don't want to do all that. He has to let us
Mhm.
go through that, and we just have to trust him along the way and not worry, not fear, because again, he already has it set up to where it's like it's a fixed game. It's been fixed.
Mhm.
You're going to win. Trust me. You just got to walk through this thing. Hold on. Stay steady. Stay with me. I'm going to guide you through. I'm going to be your covering and protection. I'm going to be your eyes and ears to help you navigate this thing. And trust me, when you
Yeah.
come out on the other side of it, you're going to be able to do it still standing upright, and you're going to be stronger and better and wiser than you were before it happened. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be blessed. There's a blessing that's
Yes.
going to be there for you, and perhaps a blessing actually for somebody else as a result of you going through what you just went through. So it's again, it's the process, and we oftentimes, even as believers, we don't always want to go through the process. We just, like I use the
Yeah.
microwave example. We want it fast. We want it now. Skip all that other
Mhm.
stuff. Just give it to me. Well, that's just not how it works. God is not a genie in a lamp that we just rub and make wishes off of, and it just happens. We gotta go through some stuff. But as I've matured in my walk, and I'm sure as you've matured in your walk, one of the things that you just learn is that instead of dreading those challenging moments, you're starting to now evolve to where you say, okay, it doesn't feel good, but I actually look forward to it because I understand what lies on the other side. So once I
Yeah.
stop fearing, once I stop worrying, once I stop stressing myself out about it, even though it's a challenging time, I'm good, because I can't, and I've oftentimes said this to people, I can't name one time, even on this talk that we're having right now, I can't tell you one time that he failed me. I could be
Yeah.
thinking about it all day long, all night long, and I can't tell you one time that he failed me. Now, I can tell you plenty of times that I failed me or that other people have
Mhm.
failed me, but I can't tell you about a time where he did. So, what am I stressing about? What am I really worried about?
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, if I'm supposed to be following you and believing that you are who you say you are, then I need to kind of that my actions need to be representative of that. I'm saying that you're
Yeah.
the Almighty God, you're the one and true, you are it, you are everything. Then why am I acting like that? You're not. Why is my behavior
Yes.
reflecting the opposite of that? And we're human, so sometimes we get caught up in that, but we have to get redirected, refocused, and say, okay, let me shake whatever this is on me right now. Let me shake that thing off and get my mind straight. Keep my eyes on him, and just let
Yeah.
him work that thing through. So, excellent, excellent.
I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're saying, because one of the things I've come to know and understand about God in general, Joe, is that if we could do it on our own, we would. But
Hmm.
sometimes He doesn't show us everything because He knows we would not depend on Him. And I
Right.
believe that that is that's a part. It's a very important part of being in a relationship with God, is understanding that He is a sovereign God and He wants all of our attention, all of our affection. But ultimately, sometimes it means not always knowing the way that we have to go or the way we must take, that we ultimately learn how to trust Him and take Him at His word. So I believe sometimes, even when He's not speaking and even when He's not showing us blow by blow, as you put it, He's ultimately just teaching us to trust Him, and depend on Him, so that we're not necessarily, we don't, basically, so that even when we don't see Him, we can
Hmm.
still know somehow He's going to lead us down the right path or guide us in the way we need to go.
Right, right. You're so right about that. Like I said, oftentimes in those moments of adversity and challenging situations, is all we're needing to do is obey. Just do what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
That's pretty much. He said, I didn't ask you to worry
Yeah.
about all the details and the particular. I got that. I got all
Mhm.
the details. I don't recall you being around when I created this world and all that's in it. Did you recall
That's
me
how I would
asking you
talk.
for your
Like, were you there?
right? Were you there? Do you recall me asking you for your input on how to do this? I think I've shown you that I got this thing figured out. So you just need to follow my lead and do what I asked you to do. It's kind of almost like how we used to, how our parents used to be. Don't do what don't be asking me a whole bunch of questions. Don't do what I say. Do what I tell you to do. They just want you to just do it because I said so.
Yeah.
It's like because I said so. And God is kind of like he talks to us like that in many ways. Because I said so. I just need you to do it.
Yeah.
You think I'm gonna steer you wrong? I'm gonna steer you into danger. I'm gonna steer you down the wrong path. No. I'm just asking you to do what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
If I need anything from
I
you,
got this.
I got this. I'm God all by myself. I don't need help. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's hard for us, a hard lesson for us to embrace. But again, in time, through that relationship with God, we learn more and more each day to rely upon Him. I know that's what it's been like for me. I'm sure it's been like that for you. And I'm still a work in progress. You're still a work in
Yeah.
progress. We're still
Really.
working on it. But when I think back from what I used to be and what used to perplex me and worry me and stress me and versus today, it's clearly a difference, and there's still more room to make in that space. And so with that said, I'm curious, or I should say, I want to give you an opportunity, if you would, to offer up some words of encouragement. And so in doing so, if you could have an opportunity, as you think back over the course of your life, all that you've experienced, gone through, etc., if you had a chance to sit the younger LaShawna in front of you, knowing what she was like, what she's been through, challenges that she's had, the way that she used to process doing things and working through challenging moments, if you had a chance to speak to her, or perhaps somebody right now could be listening that is currently what she used to be, is currently facing the challenges that she used to face, what would be your words of encouragement that you would offer that you believe are key to being able to work through those challenging moments of adversity and doing it with the right mindset, with the right heart, with the right spirit? What would be your words of advice in that situation?
To just kind of think, because for whatever the reason, when I think about the younger me, I always think about the younger me, like around 10 or so. And I want to say that that's probably around the age, that I started developing, um, a personality, gaining a little bit of independence. Not so much 10, but somewhere during an adolescent, becoming an adolescent, I probably started thinking faster uh, than what I needed to. So I would definitely encourage her to just slow down. If I was able to speak to the younger me, I would just say, slow down. You don't need to rush to do anything, become an adult, grow up, any of that. Just enjoy childhood, just enjoy who you are, your playful nature, your humor. Obviously, I was um, a little bit of a thrill seeker. I didn't, and I am to this day too. I still like to, be surprised, by either what the world has to offer or even what a new um, city or town would look like. So I would just say, just slow down, take your time, take it all in. There'll be time for everything in life, but you don't need to rush to do anything. And then I also wish that I would have been more motivated where education was concerned. I did just the bare minimum, probably to skate by enough for them to, just not be breathing down my neck. So I would definitely have taken my education a lot more seriously. But ultimately, I definitely um, would not want the younger LaShawna to beat herself up, for mistakes she would have made, or even becoming a mom at a relatively young age. I would just want her to know that, you can handle what you are going to experience in life. So I guess I would probably just kind of encourage myself to just know that I am not only enough, but with situations that come in my life, would come in my life, that I could also face them courageously and just um, know that there's always going to be hope, hope for a better day, becoming a better person. I guess just, you know, those would be things I would tell the younger me or someone in a similar situation that, this isn't the real you. This is who you are right now, but just hold on. There's a better version to come.
I love that. I love that. Like you said, it's about pacing yourself. It's understanding, hey, I'm a work in progress. There's lots to learn. There's lots to take in. There's lots to absorb. We're trying to rush everything. We're trying to be be in this particular place so soon when you haven't had a chance to build those stepping stones to get to where you need to be to fully understand it and appreciate it. And you know, because like I said, a lot of times when we try to speed things up too quick, like the whole, like I said, the microwave example, the fast food example, the whole anything that goes too fast, too quick, too soon, oftentimes will lead us down pathways of destruction, or create
Yeah.
problems unnecessarily that we didn't have to have in our lives. But again, as you stated, it doesn't make us horrible people. And so that's why I love the fact that you made mention, don't beat yourself up about mistakes that you make, because we all do. Okay, so you became a mom at a younger than anticipated age. So because maybe you didn't, focus in on your studies in school as much as you wish you would have, or because maybe you didn't make this decision or do that thing or what have you. Okay, you're not the first.
Yeah.
You won't be the last. The point is do you recognize, do you call it what it is? Because that was something you made mention of earlier when you were talking about your daughter. First of all, do I call what it is, what my situation
Yeah.
is, a mistake, or if we want to speak of it from a spiritual standpoint, if I've sinned, do I call it what it is? Okay.
Hmm.
Now that I've acknowledged what it is, what am I going to do about it? Okay, I understand I can be forgiven for that through my relationship with God, accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I know I can be forgiven. Now I'm on
Yeah.
that road of repentance. I'm on that road of growth. I'm on that road of getting better. How do I do that? And take those steps necessary to get better. If you fall down along the way, okay, guess what? You get another chance. You get another chance until you get it right. Just keep
Yeah.
pushing, keep trying to keep working at it. Don't give up. Don't stop progress, because eventually you're going to get over that hump. Eventually you're going to get to where you need to be. And you'll look back at those moments in time and go, man, that was rough. That took me a while, but I made it and I'm
You
okay.
have.
I survived it, for our listeners and viewers, you're not looking at two people who had it all right and figured it all out the first time. We done had first chances, 10th chances, 100 chances, 1,000 chances. We done slipped, failed,
Amen.
tripped, all of that, but we're only here today through the grace and mercy of God, but also just our willingness to keep fighting, keep pushing through,
Yeah.
keep never giving up, not allowing those setbacks or those temporary stumbles to define us, or to make us feel like this is the end of our story, that there's no hope, that there's no way. So definitely solid advice that you've given, and words of encouragement, and I know somebody's going to be blessed by that. So LaShawna, it has been a thrill having you on the podcast this evening. I've enjoyed kind of catching up with you, and not only that, but just to hear a little bit more about your journey, learning even after all these years that I've known you, just learning another layer of you, and it just gives me a greater appreciation and respect more above and beyond what I already had for you. And just it just speaks volumes to the person that you are, your integrity, your character, your growth in Christ, and just your exceptional way of just being the best version of yourself. So I appreciate that, and all that you shared, tonight on the show. So before I let you go, though, as is customary on my podcast, I do like to take a moment to celebrate, to acknowledge, to love on you. If you got anything that's going on right now, any good news to share, any exciting ventures coming up, anything of that like, whether it be business, personal, or otherwise, please share that with us. So again, we can celebrate that and acknowledge that and lift that up in prayer, and just let you know that we're excited and proud for whatever it is that God is opening up for you.
Yeah. Overall, I don't have much going on in terms of activities, any business ventures or anything like that. I was grateful and blessed to have reached 50 last year. So I'm just kind of walking that whole piece out. I am Yeah, I mean, it's weird to even say it. So I call myself just kind of preparing for the moment that I would turn 50. But I feel extremely grateful, to have made it, to overall be healthy. Obviously
Mhm.
there's no denying that part, but, just to feel healthy, to know that self-care is still at the top of my list. And I don't think it's selfish at all to want to care for yourself and sometimes be willing to put yourself first. We do so much, and I mean, literally throughout the day, even though there's only 24 hours, it seems like you're working like y'all of like 23.5 hours
Right.
sometimes. And so, for all that we endure day to day, I'm just grateful that, I still have my peace, I still have sanity. My focus is, just trying to, do what I can in the world, continue to be salt and light when I can, where I can, expose people to the Lord, and be open to sharing my faith. So ultimately, I think I'm in a good place. I really am. I don't have any qualms or issues about where I am. I believe that everything, even when it doesn't feel the best, is working in my favor somehow for the good. Like I said, I feel healthy. I feel well. I'm just glad to be alive. So I'll just celebrate that alone.
Yeah. And hey, that's definitely something to celebrate. I mean, make reaching that 50-year mark, like I said, feeling good about yourself, health is relatively good and intact. You're in of good spirits, of good joy, of good presence. I mean, it's evident. I mean, like I said, throughout our conversation and just seeing you and hearing you, there's nothing fake about it. It's very authentic. It's very genuine. You're in a good space and place right now, and that's exactly where you want to be, especially as you're entering, into that next phase of life, crossing that 50 bridge. I crossed it a few years before you did, but, it's always good to be in a good space, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And so that is definitely a blessing and definitely something to celebrate. So, I'm excited for you, as I said, and I'm looking forward to even more greater and magnificent things to come up out of your life. And, and again, just allowing God to just use you as he sees fit, and you accepting that and receiving that call, and doing his will and doing his works for him, and just being a blessing that you are. So again, I thank you for that, and I thank you for the sharing of your journey with us today. I know I was blessed, and I'm certain that our listeners as well are going to be blessed as well in regards to that. So, um, for my listeners, of course, if you've enjoyed our content this evening, it's been of in inspiration to you and encouragement to you. Please do subscribe. Please share. Please like. Please comment. Because here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is what it's all about. The whole purpose of this podcast coming into existence is about inspiring, encouraging, uplifting, being transparent in the sharing of our stories with one another, letting you know that, yeah, we all go through storms. Storms are not, just set for certain people. We all have them. Yours may not be mine may not be yours, but we're going to all go through stuff. But I'm here to tell you that even in the midst of the storm, that does not define the as being the ending of your story. It doesn't mean that there's no hope for future. There's no hope for happiness, for joy, for peace, or anything of that nature. It's just a part of the process. It's a part of what we go through in life. But, we serve a God that when he allows these storms to come our way, it's never meant to hurt us. It's never meant to bring us down. It's never meant to punish us. It's all about our growth and development. And most importantly, it's about us drawing nearer and closer to him, being dependent upon him. Having a relationship with God is one of the greatest, if I would say the greatest decision and that I've ever made, that LaShawna's ever made. And we're not telling you something that we heard. We're telling you something that we know from personal experience. So if you've not made that decision, I encourage you. Today is a mighty fine day to make that decision, and I promise you, it'll be the best decision that you ever make. You lean on him. You trust in him to guide and direct you to navigate you, particularly in those moments of challenge and adversity. And I promise it won't be a misstep on your behalf. It'll be a blessing to you. Trust and believe, and you'll be a better person as a result of that. So remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and where your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Stay encouraged, stay inspired, stay uplifted. Don't let the challenging moments get you down. It's just a part of the process. Lean into God, allow Him to show you the way, to be that guiding light, and just trust the process. Obey and just follow His lead. He loves us unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for us. And in the end, it'll all work out for your good and for His good. So with that said, tune in next time. I look forward to seeing you. You have a good night and take care of yourselves.